So that's partly because I can help some of the other programs in the way that the Organizational Leadership program developed, which started in 2004 online and 1986 on campus. The Renaissance Leadership course has actually also been since about 2004. Once we began to get many more students in the online program, we were able to begin to offer some study abroad programs for the first time. Most of the study abroad programs at Gonzaga have previously been for the undergraduate experience. Junior year abroad is the typical undergraduate experience, and they would go anywhere in the world. But Gonzaga University has a actual building, a campus in Florence, in the old part of Florence, right near Piazza San Marco, so a little bit north of it's on the north part of the old part of the city. The old Florence was originally surrounded by a wall, which they tore down, and it's become a kind of a highway that goes around the old city. And so Gonzaga has had this campus in the old part of the city, a building there where they've worked from since 1964, so a long time. I think they're one of the oldest American universities to have the site. Graduate students typically were not taking advantage of that, and so in 2004 we began to say, well, why don't we try to see if we can work out some courses with our online students, have online material that the students could take, but then they come over to Florence for 2 weeks, which we figured was about right for what professionals, working graduate students could do in terms of their work. So what I want to do is, what we've done over the past 12 years now is we've, Dr. Caputo, John Caputo, who is Professor of Communication and Leadership Studies, and myself have team taught this course called Renaissance Leadership, and we've offered, in a sense, 2 courses. One is ORGL 510, which is Organizational Leadership, Renaissance Leadership for the 21st Century, and we've offered COML, C-O-M-L 522, which is rhetoric, organizational Renaissance rhetoric for contemporary organizations. So there's an opportunity for you to take either one or the other of those 2 courses, either an ORGL class or a COML class as part of the elective in your program. Theoretically, you could also take 6 credits. You could take both courses because what's going on is Dr. Caputo and I are team teaching in the mornings while we're in Florence and Rome and Siena, and then we're going to field trips in the afternoon, and we're doing that together. But each of those courses has a separate set of readings, separate set of assignments, a separate kind of focus in each course. But what we're doing during the team taught part in the morning and in the field trips is really trying to help you understand the Renaissance so that you can apply it either to leadership or to rhetoric, or if you choose to take both courses, to both. So, okay, so let's jump in here. As I mentioned, these are the 2 courses. I'm using the schedule that we've created, and Dr. Caputo and I have been doing this for 12 years, so it's like we've got the system down. But even though the system gets down certain times, every summer we go there, something gets closed, or there's a problem or whatever it is. So that's why that little thing, all events outside of class are tentative and maybe change. We just have to, we do our best, but sometimes the museums will work against us. You see a picture of the Ponte Vecchio. That's the very famous bridge in Florence across the river, and it's very close. It's probably within about a 20-minute walk of the Gonzaga building, and the hotel that the students will stay in is maybe a block away from the Gonzaga building, also still in the old part of Florence. But most of the work that we'll do after class in terms of wandering around Florence will be done by foot. We'll be walking everywhere. If you have issues with walking, we've had students that have had a very difficult time walking in the past. The problem is solved in a sense by them being prepared to take taxi cabs, and then we just meet them wherever we're walking. So it's not an impossible thing. It costs a little bit more because you have to rent the taxis. If you do come on the class, what we do is we recommend that you maybe a month before you go, you start doing a little more walking than maybe you're used to, so that by the time you get to Italy, you're ready for that. So this is a picture from this last summer, and it's up with an area called Piazza Michelangelo up above the city of Florence, and so you can see in the background that bridge that we just saw a close-up. You can see the Duomo, and here's the Duomo, the dome of the Duomo. Duomo meaning the cathedral, the main church in Florence. The Palazzo Vecchio is this tower here, and then you can see the bridge here and the river, and then these are the students that we had there. And so there's me, and there's Dr. Caputo. And the dates for this coming year is going to go from Sunday, May 15th. So the way that would work is if you've never been to Europe, you'll fly over. You'll probably leave here in the States, and on a Saturday, you'll get, just by the nature of the time zones, you'll get into Italy on Sunday, and then we'll go until Saturday, and then you'll fly home. And the flight home is, of course, you get the time zones begin to work in your favor. So what I'm going to do is go through kind of what we do over there, so you can get an idea of that. So the first night is pretty much just getting to know each other, and this is a picture of last summer's opening dinner, welcome dinner, and in this particular case, we start in Rome. So many of the students will fly into Rome, and then we have a hotel there, and then we just walk probably about a block to a local restaurant that can give us a meal that is a very typical Roman meal. So that's part of what we're looking for, is a kind of an experience of what this place is like, and the foods that are particular to it. On the Monday then, so Sunday night is just getting into Rome, getting settled in the hotel, having the dinner, getting to meet everybody. You'll have had some conversations with people online, some people you'll know from other classes that you've taken. Then on Monday, what we do is and I'm going to speak probably a lot regarding the ORGL 510 course, because that's the one that I'm responsible for in terms of the assignments and the just the evaluation of it. So obviously this is a picture of the Colosseum. What we do in Rome is, what we're trying to do is really get a focus on, well, what's the Renaissance about? What was the experience of the people in Italy that led to the Renaissance? Because ultimately what we're trying to do in the course that I'm teaching is we're trying to say, well, what is that? How can we bring that dynamic back and learn from it to apply it in our own current secular organizations? And so we look at this idea is that the Renaissance, the people in Italy in Renaissance, really, when they would go to Rome, they would see the same exact things that we're seeing, like the Colosseum in ruins, the Forum in ruins, and then they also, in the very next day, they ended up going, well, not the next day, our next day, but in the Renaissance, the Italians would see the ruins of Rome, the ruins of the Forum, the ruins of this great classical empire of Rome, and then by the end of the Renaissance, a lot of those ruins had been built up so that you had things like the Vatican, which we've all seen because of the popularity of Pope Francis and his visit. I think we all have a sense of what Vatican City looks like and the buildings there, and it's just a very elaborate thing. This is actually a mural in one of the former Pope's bedrooms in the Vatican, a mural done by Raphael about the great philosophers. So what we do in Rome is we try to see kind of the bookends of the Renaissance. We see what the Italians saw before the Renaissance, and we see what they saw at the end of the Renaissance, and we try to get a sense of what must they have felt like when looking at these ruins and thinking about where they had been and where they wanted to go, and then we think about, well, what was the feeling they had when they began to see all of the things that had been created in the Renaissance: art, architecture, music, those kinds of things. So we will travel to the Vatican museums, to St. Peter's Basilica. In the Sunday night, we've got so we have the dinner on Sunday night, and then on Monday we go to the Pantheon, the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, and then your evening is free. We suggest that students break into small groups and just try to go to different places in the city. We've got some recommendations for you. Same thing on Tuesday. We'll be going to the Vatican Museum, St. Peter's Basilica, and then in the evening you're free to go out. So pretty much and we'll get this later, but the expense that you've paid to cover your hotel, and that the hotel both in Rome and in Florence provides breakfast each morning as part of the hotel expense, and then you're just then required to get your lunch and dinner, and you can, according to your tastes and interests, you can spend a little money or you can spend a lot of money on food in Rome and Florence. Okay, Wednesday we end up taking a bus that picks us up from the hotel in Rome and takes us and our luggage to the hotel in Florence. And as we go through Tuscany on the bus, both Dr. Caputo and I will talk a little bit about that experience, 500 years ago in terms of traveling throughout Italy, but also the relationship between Rome and Florence as well. We get into the Hotel Athenaeum, which is, as I said, just about a block away from Gonzaga's campus, and right in the area of Piazza San Marco. And in this picture, you can see a little closer view of the Duomo, the cathedral, and the famous dome that Brunelleschi constructed. And that's one of the key elements of both of our courses, but especially of mine, looking at the creativity of Brunelleschi and in a sense his leadership, not just leadership in general, but kind of project management leadership as well. Here's some pictures of some of the scenes you might see in Florence. This one on the upper left is my favorite gelateria. That's one of the nice things about studying in Italy. Gelato is a very exciting part of the culinary experience in Italy, and so Dr. Caputo and I will take you to our favorite gelaterias, and then you can decide which ones you like the best, although I would recommend, if you're taking my course, I do have control over your grade, so probably you'll like mine. The picture on the right there, a little closer up of the Duomo again. The bottom one, a nice picture from Piazza Michelangelo again of the city, so you can get a real sense of how beautiful the city is, and also we'll be walking all over that what we're looking at there. You'll see everything from the street level, and everything in Florence. Walking around is an amazing experience. Everything is historical. Thursday we'll start back up in our class sessions. This is a picture of the classroom we actually use at Gonzaga. So it's a nice classroom. We circle the chairs. The students, it's a nice setup in terms of we've got a screen we can use for PowerPoints and things like that. The building that Gonzaga owns has Wi-Fi available, so students, if they do bring their phones or their tablets or their laptops, they can access them through the Wi-Fi at Gonzaga. The hotel also has Wi-Fi in it as well. On that first day what we do is we focus on the Medicis being a very famous Italian family that was really a trigger for much of the Renaissance by the patronage they gave to artists, and also by the way they rethought what it meant to be powerful. Up until the Medicis, you were powerful if you were a duke or you had some kind of a noble title. But after the Medicis, it was really about entrepreneurs and, in this case, business people, bankers. So we go and we'll take a look at the Medici home. We'll look at the Medici church. That was their parish church that they put a lot of money in. But again, we'll begin to see the kind of what this patronage led to. Michelangelo, Leonardo, a lot of very famous artists and sculptors and architects worked under the Medici's patronage, and it has an effect then on the whole city and on the power base of the Medicis as well. So we'll take a look at that. On Friday, we'll continue that a little bit, and we'll go to the Boboli Gardens, which is located in the what's called the Pitti Palace, which is sort of in a little bit later part of the Renaissance, was the Medici's home in the suburbs, in this case across the river on the other side of Florence. And so we'll go through that, very beautiful gardens, and we'll take a look at some of those artists as well. On Saturday, this is a picture of what's one of the towns in what's called Cinque Terre, which is 5 towns. Cinque Terre just means 5 little towns, and it's along the Italian Riviera. And the reason I put the picture there is the weekend each summer that we'll only teach in Italy, we give the weekends to the students as a free weekend. So Saturday and Sunday you can either stay in Florence and wander around Florence a little bit. You can take day trips to Cinque Terre, to Venice, to other parts of Italy. Sometimes students will go as far as Sicily or Naples, and maybe even spend the night there. Some will spend the night in Venice, but that's completely up to the students. But that way, while you're over there in the middle of the week, you get a little chance to do whatever you would like. Dr. Caputo usually takes students different places. He likes to travel and see things, so often he'll take students with him to see Cinque Terre. But I tend to want to sleep in and just hike in the hills above Florence. So we've got students who will do both. So you have a completely free weekend there. Here's some other, just as a kind of interlude, are some pictures. This is the upper left picture is a picture of the students from last summer eating. I put a lot of pictures of what we were doing in the course last summer on Facebook, and I had my wife would constantly make little remarks about it. Seems like all you're doing is eating, but that was the more picturesque pictures I could put on Facebook. The ones in the classroom weren't that picturesque. So, but we do a lot of eating. There's a lot of wonderful meals in Tuscany. Tuscany, especially the area around Florence and Florence, amazing food, very different food than in the southern part of Italy. Rome is very nice, but different as well. The bottom picture is one of the piazzas, the squares, the public places in Florence. It's actually, Florence was for a short period of time the capital of the newly founded United Italy, which only happened in the 19th century. And eventually that capital went back down to Rome, but this is actually called Piazza Repubblica, the Republic of Italy, and that was when they were the capital. And the picture on the right is looking into the cloister area of Santa Croce. Santa Croce is where all of the very famous poets and writers of Italy tend to be buried. There's a statue of Dante out there, and Dante will be a very critical person for us in terms of the beginning of the Renaissance. So So this is the kind of the area where Dante lives. On Monday, we then focused on, I focused on Brunelleschi. Brunelleschi was an architect, artist, and a mathematician, kind of creative thinker. One of the things that really excites me about this coming summer is that the last 2 summers we've been over there, the museum that's that's related to Brunelleschi's work of creating this dome, which this size dome had never been created since the time of the ancient Romans. They had lost the skill to make the kind of concrete and figure out how to cover those expansive spaces, and Brunelleschi was able to figure it out through a kind of process, mathematical process of determining how to put bricks together so they would support each other. So one of the, it's an option. You don't have to do that, but you're able to even climb up inside that dome all the way up to the very top of the dome, which has a wonderful view of Florence. But one of the things that excites me is the museum has now been reopened, and I guess it's like 3 or 4 times the size of the original museum. So I'm excited. I think it will be just a great experience in terms of really understanding the significance of the work that Brunelleschi did, and for us, in terms of the leadership, the kind of creativity and outside-the-box thinking he did to get it created. On Tuesday, we focus on this idea of good and bad government. This actually I prepare people to go to Siena. This is a picture actually of basically the council chambers where the city elders would come together to make decisions about the city. This is in Siena. What we do this day is we actually go to the equivalent of this in Florence, which is in what's called the Palazzo Vecchio, the seat of the government, where they would actually lock the council people, the elders, in this building so that they were forced to work together and make decisions. So we'll kind of compare those a little bit. On Wednesday, we'll have a bus pick us up at the hotel in Florence and take us to Siena. It's about maybe an hour, hour and a half at the most bus ride. We'll spend the day in Siena. We'll go with Dr. Caputo's class. He wants to focus specifically on Catherine of Siena as a rhetorician, very influential, persuasive in things that had to do with the church. And then what I do is I take you to that hall that we looked at just a moment ago, those council chambers, and we take a look and compare that to what we saw in the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence. But a beautiful city, very different. Siena is a very medieval-looking city. Siena and Florence were kind of rivals, and they were struggling to see who would be more powerful, who would get ahead more, and the plague hit Siena in a way much more drastically than it hit Florence, and so Siena almost got frozen in the Middle Ages. The plague was so bad it devastated the population. So when you go to Siena, you really see the late Middle Ages, and when you go to Florence, you really see the early Renaissance. So it's a great comparison of those things. Here's some pictures from Siena, near where Catherine of Siena, where her home was. Here you can see kind of the city of Siena, and you can see the kind of the area around it, which is mostly farm land. And actually, this is a picture not of Siena. This is a picture on the steps of the building that Gonzaga owns in Florence. And here's some students from about, I think it was about probably 8 years ago. On Thursday, we're getting towards the end of our time together, and this is actually last, let me see, probably a couple of summers ago. every summer we have a social in the apartment that Dr. Caputo and I share, which is right near the Duomo, and so gives you an opportunity to come and have something to eat, and people and the students usually bring whatever they want to drink, water, wine, soda, but it in a sense provides at least one meal that you don't have to worry about. In Siena, part of the expense that you're paying is also that we'll go to a restaurant in Siena and have lunch there together while we're over there. On this day, on Thursday, we go to the Accademia, and so we see the David, Michelangelo's David. The other thing that we do, we go up to Piazza Michelangelo and we take a picture of the class, and then we go up a little further to San Miniato, which is a very ancient Benedictine monastery that's still active, and we listen to them chant Vespers in the crypt underneath the church. And then we come back and we have this soiree, this party at the apartment. Somebody had asked a question about sharing rooms or rooms. How does that work with the hotel? So Dr. Caputo and I obviously share an apartment, and part of that is because it just gives us a little space. If one of our family members comes, they join us in our rooms. And we have this social here, and it's probably all in all probably ends up being a little cheaper than what we would do if we were in the hotels. For the students, most of the rooms I think are shared by students. I think you can ask to have a single room, so obviously a little more expensive. So what you're doing is you're sharing rooms in the Hotel Athenaeum and in the hotel in Rome, unless you make arrangements with Study Abroad to have your own room. I can answer more questions about that if you have them as we go on. Friday is our last class day together, and what we do is what we're trying to do is, just like in Rome, where we looked at the beginning and the end of the Renaissance, by the ruins of Rome, and then the development of the church buildings in the Vatican. On this final day in Florence, what we do is we go to two museums that are related to that. We go to the Museo di San Marco, which is a Dominican, what they call it a convent. It's not a convent in the sense of nuns, but in this case it's Dominican friars, and so they were present for quite a long time. They had as their patron the Medici. We'll go in and we'll actually see how they live. They have a very nice museum there of the original friary, which kind of shows the rooms that the friars lived in, and shows a kind of special spot that the Medicis would come to have retreats and things like that. Very, very interesting. But it gives you an idea then, the high Middle Ages were not bad. They just were a part of what the Renaissance was about. But then we'll go on the other end of that. We'll go to the Galileo Museum, and that's what that picture is they have a section of the museum that has all these different globes and kind of what basically it's a museum of scientific instruments. And part of the real focus that both Dr. Caputo and I take in both of our courses and in the common team teaching thing is the dynamic of the Renaissance for us is the interaction between the late Middle Ages, what's called scholasticism, the kind of the idea that of the church and of focused on God and focused on the sacred, and humanism, which in a sense began to develop in the 15th, 16th century in Italy, and was all about experiencing the world, experiencing the human person, focusing on what actually is going on rather than on the sacred. And so what we're suggesting is that somehow that interacts and that tension between scholasticism and humanism, the tension between the ideal and the real, was what produced, that tension produced the dynamic creativity and imagination of the Renaissance. And that before that, scholasticism was the only game in town, and there wasn't that creativity. And after that, humanism sort of won and led into the Enlightenment. And again, good things happened, but there wasn't that kind of creativity. So that's part of what we're trying to do in the course, is to try to help you get a visceral experience of that as well as an intellectual experience. On Saturday, you check out of the hotel, and at that point, if you have time and money, you could spend a little more time in Europe. Otherwise, you head out and go home, and the coursework shifts to online. And here's another couple of groups of students, different years. I can always tell by how young and how dark my hair is how long ago it was. But so again, we've been doing this for 12 years, and so we have a lot of great experiences, a lot of great memories. There's Dr. Caputo and myself standing on a bridge, and in the background you can see the Ponte Vecchio. So the two courses are Renaissance Leadership for the 21st Century, Renaissance Rhetoric, and Contemporary Leadership. The actual course starts on Sunday, May 29th. The online portion of the course doesn't end until Friday, August 5th, which gives you an opportunity to be able to come home and finish some reading, and there's a few more discussion board posts that you need to make, but then at that point it gives you plenty of time to write the integrated paper regarding your experience in Italy related to either rhetoric and persuasion or the idea of creativity and imagination within an organizational setting. So let me just make a couple of key points. And just so you have these as key points, and then what you can do, we'll open up to some questions here. So first of all, this summer, Renaissance Leadership's offered for only 12 students. In the past, we've had more students, but it gets a little crazy when we get too many students. What the university has done is it has committed to offering the course for the next 3 years, which is helpful. So we know it's going to be up and running. So if you can't get in this year, then it will be offered next year. If you apply this year and it's full and you have to go on a waiting list, then next summer you would be immediately put in as the initial group. So what we're trying to do is make sure that those graduate students who really would like to make this a part of their curriculum, their learning experience in either organizational leadership or communication leadership studies, have an opportunity to do that. As I mentioned at the beginning, you can take it for 3 credits. Pretty much the pricing of the fee that you're going to pay to go over. The student is responsible for airfare, and the student is responsible for their meals other than the welcome and the closing dinner and lunch in Siena and the social at our apartment in Florence. And then you pay a fee that covers your housing and the hotel rooms and the travel, the buses and things between Rome and Florence and Siena. However, the tuition you're paying for 3 credits is part of that tuition money is being used to pay for some of the costs of the program. So it's actually, I mean, if you can afford to fly over there and have some pay the fee for the hotel, you're actually getting a pretty good financial deal because some of the money that you're also spending on tuition is being used to pay for a lot of the things that are part of the course. So if you decide to take 6 credits, then it's just you have to pay for 3 additional credits like you would normally in any session. And so it's really those first 3 credits that are the ones that are absorbing the cost of the study abroad program. But because of the way that Dr. Caputo and I have organized this for the last 12 years, you can make the decision, well, I've got room and I would like to do 6 credits instead of 3. In addition, besides the courses, these 2 courses that are offered together in Florence, there are also some other courses that are offered in the summer. One is in Florence or in Italy. One is a COMEL course in Carey, which is Carey is a smaller town, and so it's a very different experience than Florence, but many students really like it. It's offered after the Renaissance Leadership, so there have been a handful of students in the past that have taken the Florence Renaissance Leadership course and then also traveled down to Carey to take that course, which is also a 2-week course. There's also a doctoral course called Observation Research, which it's basically ethnography, and what it's doing is it's looking at objects, fountains, steps, door facades, those kinds of things, and doing ethnographic research on it. So that's a separate course, and it is open to MA students, but it's pretty much going at the same time as the Renaissance Leadership course, so you'd have to make a decision of which one you wanted to do. All right, and then next steps. There's a picture of the baptistry, and I just on Facebook noticed that you can see how dirty it is on the bottom, and they, again, for the last 2 years, they've had it surrounded by a tarp, and they've been cleaning it, and it just opened up last week, and it's shiny white now. So again, I think this summer is going to be a particularly nice summer to be over there because of that. The other thing that's interesting when we're in Rome is this year is the Catholic Church's Year of Mercy that Pope Francis has declared. So there'll be a lot of pilgrims, a lot of people coming to Rome, to the Vatican, and so we'll have an opportunity of actually being there during that holy year. So even if you aren't Catholic, that's kind of an interesting thing. So if you're interested, you can get more information from either me or from Dr. Caputo. The student service coordinators that help you on a variety of things and have been kind of messaging this, you can contact them either at that email or at that phone number, and they can help you. There is a process of turning in certain materials, and then paying. I think I'm not absolutely sure, but I think it's like a $500 deposit. And then once the deposit is paid, then you're in, and then we'll start kind of giving you information about preparing to go over there. The course is a definite go, so what we really want to do, and we know we'll be able to get 12 students, so the real thing I want to underscore is if this is the summer you think, no, I need to go this summer, this is when I would like to do it, this is what part I'm hoping to be a part of my program, then what you want to do is it's not so much the deadline as getting in that queue first so that you will be able to go this year. If you can't, if you try to get in and it gets closed, then what we'll do is we'll put you in the front of the queue for next summer. And us actually even being in the waiting list, some people may drop out, so it may still be possible. And all of that information will probably be clear before too long into 2016. So let me open it up to questions. You can write the questions in the chat area and I'll answer them, or you can turn on your microphone and ask the question and everybody can hear it and I'll try to answer that.
Are we on mute?
No, I can hear you. Do you want to have a question?
Oh yeah, sorry, I was late to joining your class. So it's a 3-month course then?
It's a 2-week course.
2-week course. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was
No, that's fine.
having difficulty getting online, so I wasn't sure. So it's a 2-week course.
Well,
okay.
It's let me clarify that. And there will be an online video tape of this webinar that you can watch later if you can connect up with one of the student service coordinators. Basically, the course is during the summer session in 2016. Right now, the summer session is the typical summer session at Gonzaga is a 12-week summer session, the full summer session. So this course is located within that 12-week summer session, and then the first 2 weeks of that summer session are spent on the ground in Italy, and the rest is online or turning in materials by email.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Other questions? And you can type in questions in the chat area, or just ask questions on the microphone. Okay, that sounds like everybody knows exactly what they need to know. My email address is just my last name, Carey, at gonzaga.edu. So if you have a particular question you want to email me, I'd be happy to respond. Okay, so one of the questions is, can you provide examples of the work required upon return from Italy? Okay, so basically, let me speak a little bit to my class. What you're doing is you've got a number of books in the Renaissance Leadership for the 21st Century course. You've got a book on the Medici. You have a book on Brunelleschi's work on the Dome. You've got we use Machiavelli's The Prince. And then we also use a book by Gelb called I'm going blank, having a senior moment here, How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. And so basically what you're doing is you're taking those readings and you're taking your experiences in Italy, which you're keeping in a journal, and our conversations in the class related to this tension between humanism and scholasticism. And so what you're doing in the paper is you're kind of creating an integrated expression of, okay, so what is it that you think was the cause of the creativity and imagination in during the Renaissance, and then you're trying to say, okay, now if I were to take that back and try to apply that in my own organizational experience, what would that look like? What would I do as a leader to try to create a certain kind of environment within which that kind of creativity and innovation could happen? So anyways, so there's that. All right, so Vince has a question of what's your favorite part of the 2-week session? What keeps you coming back? Now, Dr. Caputo would answer this very differently. He and I are very different personalities. I find the places that are these meditative spaces in both Rome, Siena, and Florence, all three, to be my favorite part. So I love, I actually really enjoy at night, right around sunset, going and sitting in the Vatican, the Piazza San Pietro, that big open area in front of the Basilica in the Vatican City. Nobody's there, the sun is setting, and I usually just, I love just kind of hanging there. I like Boboli Gardens in Florence, and the cloisters in Santa Croce and in San Marco. In Siena, you know, I just, I actually really like the place where we go for my course to look at this council chambers. It's a very small area, and it's these murals on the wall that talk about good government and bad government. I have a behind me on my wall, I have a framed poster of one of the walls in there. It's just a very evocative kind of mural of what it means to be involved in trying to make a good society. So those are the things that keep coming to me back. And a little bit the wine and pasta and gelato, that's also very important. All right, let me see if I've got some other questions here. Traveling with books, what do we need to bring with this trip? The only book I need for my class really is the How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. What I suggest that people read before they come over is the Medici book, because that gives you a good kind of feel for it. So you could bring that on the plane, or you could read it before you come. I suggest you bring the Leonardo da Vinci book. The other books will be used more when you come back home. Dr. Caputo, I think, rather than books, he has a number of readings that are online. So you don't really have to worry about the book part. How far is Venice from Florence? How do we get there during the weekend free time? Both Dr. Caputo and I will help you understand the train system in Italy. Not very difficult, and actually pretty convenient. And so I've actually gone on, once one of my daughters came to visit me during the time I was teaching. We took the weekend and went up to Venice. It was like a day trip. We left early in the morning, explored Venice during the day, and then got back on the last train to Florence. So it's like a day trip. Same with Cinque Terre. You know, it's according to where you're going. Pretty much you can make anything a day trip. If you want to spend more time, we've had students go to Venice and spend the night in Venice because they want to see Venice at night, and you know, after everybody goes. There are no car roads in Venice, so you get in on the train, and when the last train goes away, that's it. You're there, and there isn't anybody. So a lot of the people that were there during the day are gone. So, all right, let's see. Money exchange. Basically, the way I work it is, and Dr. Caputo as well. What you do is the easiest way is there's ATMs all over Rome and Florence, and we can kind of guide you to the safer ones, you know, that are, you know, usually they're ones connected to banks, and that where you have a little bit of a security so that somebody can't come up and mug you when you're getting the money and stuff. But usually then you're using your debit card or credit card with, and you get out cash. Typically you can charge things like restaurants and things like that in Florence, but the reality is we're asking you to go with other people to share dinner, and very, very typically they're not going to break up the meals by you know, 6 people with each separate one. So most likely what's going to end up doing is you're going to keep track of what you're eating, and you're going to all throw in money, cash, euros, to pay the waiters. So you do want some kind of cash. I mean, if you go to buy something, typically people will have the ability to take a credit card. But most of the time what I do is I just use euros and buy things that way and just keep track of it that way. Let's see, I think I got all the questions. If I didn't, maybe you could type another question. Let's see. Is everybody feeling like they have a good sense of this? Any issues or concerns or questions? You know, before I went to Italy to teach this course, I had never been further than England, which for the most part speaks English. So I was a little anxious about, you know, traveling into a country that I didn't know the language, but you know, we'll prepare you for that. One of the nice things about going over as a class, you have a built-in community of people, especially adults, You know, that you can, at the end of the day, the hotel in Florence is a very wonderful hotel. It's got a nice little outside patio and little bar, and you can sit and discuss what you're doing with people. But you've got a built-in community, a support community. The fact that we have a building and a staff over in Florence means that if you get sick, we've got contacts for medical and health care. It's as safe a way as you're going to be able to travel over there. And there's something about not spending 2 days in one place and then going to another place. You'll really get an opportunity to feel like you know Florence by the end of this. You know, you'll be getting coffee from the same person every day. That, you know, one of the things that I like, Vincent asked, what did you like the most? I like about my second week going into the coffee shop and having the guy see me come in and start making my drink because he knows what I want. I know that's a Starbucks kind of thing, but it's kind of cool to be in a foreign country and have that happen. The question about spouses, we have had in the past spouses come, but it's kind of a bit of a pain, and I know it's a pain for John Caputo and I, because we have to keep everything very separate. In other words, theoretically, there isn't any way for the spouse to pay the program fee and join us, so that everything has to be done sort of on a parallel track. There has to be a separate working out of the hotel. There has to be purchasing tickets to the museums when we go there. I can buy the tickets for everybody that's in the course, but I can't buy the ticket for the spouse. So this, in the past, we only had one spouse come last year, and my feeling is it's just 2 weeks. You actually may have a better experience if your spouse doesn't join you. It's just like you can really focus on the educational part of this, and then if you had the time, you know, have your spouse come over and join you at the end of, or even a few days before the end, and then spend another week traveling. So that's my recommendation. Other questions? In terms of Italian, what we do is we recommend students, you know, you can have things that are apps on your phone, or you can have a Italian-English dictionary that you bring. What we suggest is that you attempt to speak Italian for all of the very basic things that you're going to do, you know, please and thank you, and where's the bathroom, and being able to order something, and that kind of thing. Every merchant in Florence knows English. They don't know English if you're not trying to speak Italian. They consider that rude. But if you try to speak Italian and you just do a terrible job of it, at some point they'll say, I know English, and then you can go from there. So it's a great experience. If you have a question about friends coming, same thing with spouses, is there's no way for us to incorporate a spouse or a friend as part of the actual formal part of the course, and that means dinners and museums and all those things. So certainly on the free weekend, very welcome to join us, or join you, obviously. The hotels will get a little squirrely if they stay in your room, because the way they work it in Europe is they charge by the number of people in the room. So plus if you have a roommate, then there'll be that as well. They'll be irritated. I'm sorry I can't be more hospitable about that, but the reality is, because of some legal issues on our end at Gonzaga, it's a very difficult process to do. Certainly, if you wanted your spouse or friend to come, I mean, they can do whatever they want. They can make arrangements and get a hotel down the hallway from you. They can come to the museums when we're walking the museums and just buy their own ticket. There's all those kinds of things. They can go to the restaurants that we're going to and order a meal on their own. So it's not impossible. It's just that it's in the past, years ago, we were able to really incorporate it more, but I just am not able to facilitate a spouse or a friend in that way. Vince says the online portion starts on the 29th. So yes, I would say it's no. It's not an abrupt. We're very conscious that some people stay a little bit longer, and so it isn't a hit the ground running when you get home and now all of a sudden you have to go online and you've got something to do that week. No, we're part of the advantage of having that thing spread out over till August is that we do give you a little bit of time to just catch your breath, get over jet lag, do a little reading, and then begin to post stuff. And you have your text, but you also have your journal, which is a kind of text that you're using as well in the discussion board posting. The airports, it's really up to you. So you're checking in Rome and you're checking out of Florence. It's very difficult, I think, to find a plane that goes from Rome late enough where you could leave Saturday morning from Florence and take the train down there and catch it. I think students have done that, but you just have to be careful of the flight when it's leaving, because the train ride is going to be probably an hour and a half to 2 hours from Florence to Rome, and so you want to give yourself enough time to catch the train, get down to Rome, and then you're going to have to get out to the airport, which is outside of the city of Rome. So the way I do it is I fly into Florence, and then I take a train to Rome, which is a little less hassly in terms of the timing. And then when I'm back in Florence, when I leave from Florence, I just leave from the Florence airport. Typically, I suppose for some of you, going from Rome to a large city in the United States, you might be able to get a direct flight. Spokane is not direct for anything, so what I typically have to do is fly from Florence to Amsterdam or to Paris, and from that I get to Seattle and then to Spokane. So, all right. Other questions? All right, it's been a great evening. I'm so appreciative of all of you showing up and being a part of this. And I hope every one of you will be able to join us in Italy this summer. It is something I look forward to. Dr. Caputo looks forward to. Part of my wife wanted to ask me, do you ever get tired of going over there? And I have to say, part of what gets me back there every year is if I were there just by myself, I don't think it would be as exciting as it is with a group of grad students who are seeing much of this for the first time. There's a real excitement about being with a group of people and getting to experience seeing these places for the first time. It's an overwhelming experience, and it will last a long time, and it affects all parts of your professional and personal life when you get back. So hopefully, if you have questions, you'll ask me by email, but I hope you'll be able to come. So thanks for joining us tonight. And I'm going to, Ciao, very good. You got the right start there. Yeah. Thank you. I'm gonna hang up, so don't consider me rude, but I'm just gonna shut it down. So good night to everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.